Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. I'm Philip.
I'm Julia.
So today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Naval Academy, which we're both graduates of, and how you can make yourself a great candidate if you're looking to go there.
Right. 4 words: scholar, athlete, leader, and most importantly, luck.
Yeah, with luck, yes, luck is important, but also like your location where you are.
I mean, that's part of luck. You don't decide where you live, and for most majority of the people, your parents are not gonna move to like middle of nowhere Idaho just so you have a better shot at the Naval Academy.
And that'll all make sense here in a minute if you have no idea what we're talking about. So jumping straight in, I'm just looking up some basic stuff online just to see what other people are saying and what we can kind of clear up, because we both applied, went through the process, got in, and went to the Naval Academy off of very different, I think we kind of took different ways. So
Polar opposite.
yeah, we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. So just jumping right into it, some basic requirements that you absolutely have to hit. 17 to 22 years old. You can't fall outside of that or they won't take you. A friend of mine turned 23 like 3 days into, I don't know, within like the first month of like starting there. So he barely made the cut. You have to be a US citizen. You can talk a little bit about that.
Right. I actually got accepted into the Naval Academy as a Chinese citizen, but I will not participate on I-Day if I didn't get my citizenship by I-Day. So you can, believe it or not, you can still get accepted as a foreigner. You just have to get your citizenship before induction day. So I got accepted on Christmas Eve 2015. Wow, such a long time ago. And I didn't get my citizenship till like March 2016. So there was a 4-month period where I'm like, oh my gosh, please, like, let me get my citizenship so I can go to the Naval Academy. But yeah.
Yeah, so got it close, but she made it.
I made it.
Anyways, next thing, you have to be unmarried. So, we couldn't go to the Naval Academy.
You just cannot have
we were married.
dependents.
Yeah.
Right. You cannot be pregnant, you cannot have kids, and you cannot be married because that make you have dependents.
But that doesn't mean you cannot get engaged. So I had a buddy, the same one who turned 23 like a month in. He got engaged his sophomore year.
Right.
There. So he was engaged for like 3 years. And then obviously the same day he graduated, he got married officially. But yeah, some people are like married beforehand too, I've heard of. And then they get unmarried just to go to the Naval Academy because you can't have dependents. It's pretty rare. But
right.
yeah.
We also know a few very rare cases where, like a female midshipman got pregnant. After they have the kid, they sign over for the kid, what's it called? The legal right?
Dependency.
The
Yeah,
dependency to their parents, so they don't have dependents, so they can finish the academy.
Yeah, very rare, but things do happen. Okay, so jumping into it, the academics. So there are a few requirements you have to hit here. Math, 4 years of math. You have to do geometry, algebra, trigonometry. Pre-calculus and calculus are highly encouraged, but you could get away without it.
Right. You just have to be a very well-rounded student.
Yeah.
Academically, right? Like all the typical things you can think of. Like
1 year of science, chemistry and physics, each 1 year. English, 4 years. Highly recommended again. Foreign language, at least 2 years. History, US and European. Computer and typing courses are great.
Those are just very, very typical things that you should already be doing on your own anyways. For any college to consider you nowadays, you should at least be in CP, college prep classes. If not AP, I think almost everyone had a few credits taken off because of AP classes. Like just do the normal thing, like the common sense thing you would do if you want to get into a good college, honors, AP, straight A.
Yeah, so with that, your GPA that you need to get into the Naval Academy, so there isn't necessarily like a hard line GPA you need to get in. And I know GPAs in high school can kind of fluctuate all over the place with what Julia was talking about with honors and AP. Like I think the highest GPA you could graduate with from my high school was like 5.3 or something crazy like that. But yeah, like I think I had, mid to high, like probably high threes. That was weighted. It was really weird. Honestly, like Julia was talking about, as long as you're rounding yourself out, taking those like variety of classes, you should be good there. I wouldn't worry too much about the number.
Right. And then you can also explain your GPA if you had a slightly lower GPA, right? For example, like my GPA was a 4.2, but like if you look at my AP test score, did I really deserve a 4.2? Probably not. So let's say if you had a 3.7, but you went to a very, very difficult high school, you can definitely explain that.
Yeah, and honestly, with that, more important than your GPA is your ranking in your high school. So they really would love to see you in the top 20% of your high school, top 10% even better. But like Julia was saying, like my high school had 100% college acceptance rate. There were people who went to Harvard. There's this one guy that got accepted to Harvard at my high school when he was 14, something insane like that.
Right, at my high school, we had 20% going to college, and I was the only person going to out of state college. So, the top 20% or top 10% of my college is very, very different than his top 10, top 20%.
Yeah, so don't be too worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to get to it here in a minute, but I think there's something that's way more key than your academic or even your physical.
Right.
But real quick, rounding out the academic, one thing you're going to see tons of people talking about are ACT and SAT. I personally only took the SAT. What about you?
I took the ACT and SAT and took advantage of the super score. I had much higher grade for math at SAT and much, much, much higher grade in English on ACT. And thank you, super score. Like combining SAT math and ACT English, I was able to have a decent score.
Okay, so I do want to talk about this for a second because I feel like people stress like this part so much. Their entire courses and classes just focused on SAT and ACT. I feel like for the service academies, I don't know, this is probably a pretty hot take for a lot of people. I don't think it matters that much at all. I was not a huge fan of the SAT. I took it twice. The first time I got like in the 1100s. The second time I got like in the 1200s. This was after like scoring them together. It wasn't great. And they recommend like 1400 plus 1500 even to be competitive out of like the total 1600 for math and verbal. And I was in the 12s. So if you're really stressing about ACT, I'd encourage you, or SAT, not to stress too much about it.
With that being said, just like everything else, you should not be abysmal, right?
No.
If you have a very, very low SAT and ACT score and you think you can get accepted by a very good college, it's probably not going to happen. Like, right? I'm not saying I did not get a very, very high SAT or ACT score either. I just cannot read as fast as I could. I just moved to America 4 years ago. At that time, I still have trouble speaking English. So like reading and verbal of SAT and ACT was still very challenging for me. But I studied very, very hard and I had a decent score. Like don't make excuses for yourself saying that you're not a good test taker. We are not saying that you should get the perfect score, the 95 percentile, but you should have a decent.
Yeah, I'd say
Score.
shoot for, if you're just looking at SAT numbers, above 1200. That was
Probably,
that's pretty minimal.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're doing that, you better be doing really well in the other areas. Like I did very well in physical, and the nomination, which we're about to talk about, was really what I think got me the check in the box.
Right. I was in the 1300 area, but I have a very compelling background story, like coming to America, age 14, blah, blah, blah. Have a story to tell.
Yeah. Okay, so that's enough about academics. Jumping into the fitness now. So there is this weird test they do that you'll never do again after you're a candidate. So it involves a few different things. There's a basketball throw, pull-ups, shuttle run, crunches, push-ups, and a 1 mile run. This is very weird. Once you get into the Naval Academy and technically like the real Navy, you're never going to do that again. Like after that, we only did a run, sit-ups at the time, which they've changed over to like plank now, and push-ups. And that's it, those three things.
Right.
But talking about fitness real quick, I did pretty well in this. The basketball throw for men, you're supposed to be able to throw it like, what is this, feet? I think it's like 100 feet, 102 feet. And you can look up all the stats online. It's not that important. Basketball throw, I wouldn't stress too much about that. You have to get on your knees and just throw as far as you can.
Right.
Pull-ups, this is where girls can actually get a lot of like credit, and guys too. But I know like Julia personally, were you able to do pull-ups at the time?
Yes.
If not, you can do a flex arm hang, but I'm pretty sure
Dude,
one
just
pull
do
up,
one pull up.
is
Better than max out flex arm hang.
yeah. So flex arm hang doesn't get you a lot of credit there. If you're gonna train for something with physical fitness, like I would try and get some points from pull-ups.
Pull up in the run.
Yeah,
Pull up
and
1 mile
the run. So the shuttle run is just a sprint. It's like back and forth twice as fast as you can. Do your best there. Crunches, sit-ups. I think they're still doing those, not the plank. They might have changed it over to a plank. And then push-ups, obviously do your best. Like they don't have to be perfect. Like yes, you want them to be good, but don't think like Olympic push-ups every single time.
Right. Have a friend to take your score. Have a coach who likes you to take your score.
Yeah. And put in the work there, but don't stress about that too much again.
Right. Like I did not do super well on the physical portion, but again, I still trained very hard. I worked very hard. I was running and working out every day to prepare for this. Don't be abysmal, right?
Yeah.
Like don't, if you are not super good at this, at least don't have something that's super bad. Again, they want something very well-rounded with a few things that really catch their eyes. So, I don't have one area that's just super bad.
Yeah, and for the run, wrapping this up, 5:20 for males and 6 minutes for females.
He's talking about the max.
Yeah, those are the maxes. So I think I ran in the 5 somewhere. I don't think I maxed it, but I did pretty well. So again, I would focus on the 1 mile run and the pull-ups. You can make a lot there through some training and some push-ups, honestly. But yeah, basketball, throw, and shuttle run, those are, I don't know why those are in there. We don't really even do that.
Yeah, they're not
is what
as
it
important.
Okay, so for leadership, kind of rounding out the main 3 pillars of academic, physical, and leadership. This is where it can get pretty widespread. So like if you're on, what was it at school? Like a president, treasurer, secretary.
Right, team captain.
Yeah, council at school, team captain, like varsity letter.
ROTC, JROTC.
Yep, those are all
battalion
great.
commander.
Yeah, so anything there you can do to just make yourself look good, well-rounded again.
Right. And again, don't be afraid asking for help. Your high school teachers and counselors and coaches are there to help you. If you show them that you are a responsible kid who has ambition, they'll be eager to help you. Like I was part of the cross-country team in high school for all 4 years. I was by no means the fastest runner or the best runner. But I need this leadership pillar. And I've been there for 4 years. However, like another girl, she also really want to put down team captain or college resume. So college application. So we talked to the coach together and we're able to be co-captains for our cross-country team. So we can both put varsity cross-country team captain in our college application. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to tell people that you have big dreams and big ambitions. They will be willing to help you.
Yeah, I had some teachers at my school who had a kid who was also applying to the academies, and they made her the president of some club to help her out. So there's a lot you can do there.
Right. And then JROTC. I know people make fun of JROTC all the time. Like the Razzie Nazi, whatever little funny thing you say, I've heard it. But it really helped out. Guess what? I got a JROTC nomination. We'll talk about nomination in a second, but this is something no one talks about. And especially if you're in a leadership position for JROTC, it's a huge plus. And then in some areas that people are not really talking about. Like, I think over 90% of the Naval Academy are varsity athletes, and a huge portion are like sports team captains. It might be hard to stand out in that aspect, but it might be a lot easier when you say you're a battalion commander in JROTC. So, smaller clubs.
Yeah, and kind of wrapping up this leadership portion. So you want to develop some relationships with an English and a math teacher. I know that's very specific, but you do need letters of recommendations from one of your English and one of your math teachers. I believe it's from 10th or 11th grade at the time. So if you really don't get along well with your English math teachers, maybe work on that a little bit. And then also personal essays. These are kind of some smaller parts. But yeah, personal essays, you're going to write, I don't even think they're very long. Maybe, I think one of my congressional ones for a nomination was like 500 words. One's for the Naval Academy. They were all pretty short. But yeah, you just want to put forward your story. For me, I was a military kid growing up, moved around a lot, experienced a lot of different things. And then Julia.
Right. Okay. I think this is starting dipping into our last pillar, which in my opinion, one of the most important one, luck, right? Your essay, you're telling your story, but you don't really necessarily know what they want or like what they're looking for. You want to be a good scholar, you want to be a good athlete, you want to be a good leader, but everyone has those, right? Like everyone applying to a good college has those three things. It's like almost common sense. But how do you stand out among the other applicants? I feel like that's just like you need a little bit of luck, whether or not it's your location or your story. So for me, I talk about how I'm an immigrant. I want to better the relationship between China and America. And in my little area, it wasn't as competitive as like, let's say, the Philadelphia or the Maryland area. And a lot of people really liked my essay. And apparently, the Naval Academy admission really liked my essay. Be
Yeah.
sincere.
Yeah, and for those who are a little bit confused about that, I know we've been alluding to it the whole time. So nominations, I just want to come out and say it. That is something you need to get into the Naval Academy. There are a few different ways you can go about it. You have to get basically like a senator or congressman, vice president, or even president to give you the green light to go to the Naval Academy. So I'll use a senator for an example. They can have up to 5 people at each service academy. There are 5 service academies. We'll just talk about the Naval Academy, for example, at the service academy at any given time. So most likely they'll have 1 graduate that year, so they'll have 1 spot open up. It could be 2, you could get lucky, and then they'll have 2 spots open up. But yeah, so whatever senator for whatever state you live in, there'll be 2 of those that you can apply to. And for whatever district you live in, you can apply to that congressman. So that's 3 right there. Vice president, the entire country can apply to for like 5 spots, so that's not great. Presidential requires a few wickets to hit. So for example, my dad was in the military, so that qualified me for the presidential nomination. So those are a little bit harder to get. You can look up the current details online. But ultimately, when I applied for, everyone always applies for as many as you can there. I went for all of them, and I ended up getting my congressman because thankfully I lived like just outside of the district that everyone else who was super competitive applying for was lived in, which was awesome. That helps me out there. I also got senator and I got the presidential, so I had 3 nominations. And basically, if a senator or someone gives you the green light to go to the academy, as long as you're checking the boxes, you're not failing the physical test, you're not falling below the whatever lowest grades you need to like keep it above a 3.0, like you're passing your classes. There were people at the academy I knew with C's in high school, maybe not like F's, or try not to get D's, but check the boxes and the nomination will do the legwork.
Right. And also, I have to talk about JROTC nomination, the hidden treasure of getting into the service academy. I did not get a senator or congressman nomination. Remember, I was a Chinese citizen at the time. I had no guarantee showing people that I can get my citizenship by introduction day. So, for them, why would they waste a nomination spot on me? And I did not get vice president. Those are extremely hard to get. I don't know anyone who got those, or presidential nomination. But JROTC, they have 200 spots every year for each branch: Army, Air Force, and Navy. And no one utilizes them. I applied to the Army JROTC nomination, 200 spots. Almost 0 paperwork compared to all the other nomination, which is a very rigorous process of paperwork, essay, interview, blah, blah, blah. For JROTC, I had a great relationship with the officer in charge. I was a battalion commander. I filled out 1 piece of paperwork, and my officer in charge filled out like another piece of paperwork, and voila, I got my nomination. It was that easy. You just so not competitive. So many people don't know about it. You can look it up online. I feel like no website talk about it. That is a hidden jewel of applying to any service academy. So if your school has a JROTC, you want to go to service academy, doesn't matter how nerdy you think it is, doesn't matter how you think those kids are weird. By the way, they're not weird. Stop being so judgmental. Go join your JROTC, have a good relationship. That might be your golden ticket to get a nomination.
Yeah, that's huge. I didn't know anything about that when I
No
was
one does.
applying. So Yeah, I just cast a wide net, and don't feel bad if you get multiple nominations. Like you don't have to accept them, and other people can still get them too.
Right.
So.
Again, that is a huge part of luck,
Yeah.
right? You can be just as competitive or even more competitive as Philip and I, but if you live in a hyper competitive area like San Diego
Or
or
Annapolis.
Annapolis or DC, you might just not get a nomination, and versus someone who lives in the middle of nowhere like
Yeah.
South Dakota,
Could
Idaho,
have
or
perfect SAT score, perfect GPA, like perfect leadership.
yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Sometimes really I'm not gaslighting you, it's not you. It's just you just not as lucky as me, maybe.
Yeah, maybe there was one person in your district that would, or whatever, wherever you're living, that was better. So.
Right. And maybe they're just one little genius, even though you're perfect, they're just slightly more perfect. Don't feel bad, and it's very unrealistic to ask your parents to go and completely unroot your life to go somewhere just so you have a better chance. During JROTC.
Yeah, with that, like that age range, 17 to 22, I know people who went to another college for a year. And there's also a few programs with the Naval Academy where they can send you to like a NAPS, for example, Naval Academy Preparatory School. And they I know a lot of football players who went through that, who maybe didn't have the academics that they wanted to see, so they sent them there for a year to better prepare them before going to the Naval Academy.
Right. So this is pretty much all I want to say about the Naval Academy, right?
Yeah, if you've made it this far, awesome, good on you. This is probably one of our longest videos, but we had a lot to say on this. We'll update it again in the future at some point, but it had been a while, so we wanted to talk about it.
Right. Lastly, if you are so serious about the Naval Academy, please, please, please do not be obsessed with the Naval Academy. I'm an Asian kid. I know what a label feels like. Even though I already have a master's degree from Johns Hopkins, if I can get into Harvard, I will go in a heartbeat. But Naval Academy is ultimately just a stepping stone for you to become an officer, right? Doesn't matter if you graduated from I don't know, a community college or the Naval Academy, you are going to be a sir or a ma'am. You are going to be an ensign or a second lieutenant. If you don't get accepted, you still have so much. Just don't be obsessive. I think if I didn't get in the Naval Academy, I would have gone to Penn State. I would just be as good as I am today. I would not be any less than who I am now if I didn't go to the Naval Academy. So don't be obsessed. If you don't bet your whole life on this one college, which depends so much on luck.
No, I completely agree. And there are multiple service academies out there as well. I applied to 3 service academies. I don't know about you if you applied to multiple.
I did. Air Force told me they want me to retake my they told me they're very interested in me, but my SAT and ACT is a little bit low, which they might put me on the wait list, so they suggest me to retake it. But by that time, I have already been accepted by the Naval Academy. So
yeah, so cast a wide net, like we were saying. I applied to, I think it was West Point Coast. I got accepted to Coast Guard, I'm pretty sure, or the Merchant Marine Academy is a thing too. But they have to go out for 2 years on vessels during their time there. It's weird. They have some weird stuff. But I could have probably gone to the Air Force Academy, like you were saying. My nomination that I applied for, one of them I got, it was hey, what academy do you want? Because nominations, senators can nominate you for they have slots for each academy. So I got one where it's West Point, Air Force, or Navy. Which one do you want? So yeah, keep that in mind as well. And then just to wrap it up here, if you're still here, I'm really amazed at this point. But there are summer programs you can apply to. I know people who went to, what was it called? The summer program right before.
Summer seminar.
Oh yeah, summer seminar. I know it's a week-long program. I know people who did it for 3 separate academies. It's the summer before your senior year, I'm pretty sure. And you just apply to all of them. Go for it. And it gives you a week experience at each of the academies. Some people were hey, I just came from one at West Point and I liked that one a lot better. Or now I really like Navy. It can really help to guide your decision making.
Right. Well, hopefully you enjoy the video. And if you have any more questions, leave a comment below. We'll get to you.
Yeah.
We'll get to you.
We're super busy, but hopefully, this helped out a little bit. I know I was super lost when I was applying to the academy. So, yeah. All right. See you in the next one. Bye.